The Zimbabwe Democracy and Economic Reform Act (ZIDERA) was passed by the United States Congress, which imposed illegal and unjustified sanctions on Zimbabwe, allegedly to provide for a transition to democracy. Zimbabweans took to arms in resistance to oppression, fighting for their land, attained their freedom and redistributed the land among their people. However, sanctions were imposed calling for Zimbabwe to return to democracy. Isn't Zimbabwe a democratic state?
Democracy is not like Coca-Cola, that it is made to taste the same worldwide.
What has happened to us is a tragedy. Because when during the liberation struggle, we fought for democracy. There was no democracy in this nation during colonialism, because it was only the white minority who had the right to determine where the country would go.
The democracy question has to be domesticated home. And those who want to call it democracy in their own context, that democracy is not, there's no democracy in Zimbabwe. If you look deeper, you realize that they want democracy in their own definition.
What is democracy?
Democracy, I define it as the dictatorship of the majority.
Democracy, as I know it in Shona, igutsa ruzhinji. Kugutsa ruzhinji kuti vadye, kuti vave nepekugara, kuti vave nemunda wekurima, kuti vave nekumusha. Kana dai uri kuHarare unoda kuziva kuti une kumusha, ndokugutsa ruzhinji. I don't think anybody would say they are poor when they have these four things. You have a roof over your head, you have food, you have clothing, you have land to grow your food.
We want to domesticate the word democracy, not to try and make us fit into the European definition of democracy. What is good for us is what must be done. We are Zimbabweans, we are Native Africans. So our democracy puts the interest of the majority say, which I defined as dictatorship of the majority. That's democracy. To them, human is them. It's not even you. So when their interests in Zimbabwe are not protected or are exposed, that becomes human rights violation. So you must be able to understand when they say human rights, we want actually to protect human interests. In their definition, they mean it is them. Take the very same definition and put yourself in. By acquiring your own land, how is the right violated? So you want to understand what they mean by human rights violation. Who is the human they are referring to? So lest you actually join the campaign thinking you are the human that they are referring to. So you want our people to understand the human you are made to represent. I am a human rights defender. And the first human in court that I'm talking about is myself, is my kids, is my country. I actually expand as I go, Africa and the world. You can't claim to be a human rights defender when you mean the next door before yourself.
Let's not be fooled to think that it was because we were not democratic or we were not doing the right things. We were doing the right things, but we were duped into, we were brainwashed into thinking that is democracy.
Human rights are a package that goes hand in hand with human beings. We were existing during the time of colonization. Why was the human rights democracy question? Where was it? Why wasn't it an issue? So this is how far we track the history of democracy and so the so-called human rights issue. The land belonged to even up to this day, the native Zimbabweans. So after independence, even before independence, let me put it this way, it is the land question that led to the first Chimurenga. It is the land question that led to the second Chimurenga. It is the land question that needed to be addressed in 2000. And Zimbabwe was simply doing exactly what they fought for, making sure that we have equitable, fair distribution of land. And the whites were not, of course, ruled out of this, but we wanted at least to make sure that the land is shared fairly and give an opportunity for the native Zimbabweans to their own land. So that's when we began the issue of having the birth of sanctions. Now, fast forward 2000, probably 2002 thereabout, we begin to see an organization so-called Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights. Now that they are humans who are now in existence, the Europeans now realize, even the US aid, that they must fund an organization to deal with human rights because they think the whites now are in this category of human rights.
In Zimbabwe, is the land question an issue for discussion?
The land question that you're talking about, some may be tempted to think that it's an issue of 2000. Some may actually refer to the longest house ahead of our Zimbabwe's what is independence. But I'm tempted actually to go back to the rat concession. When we trace and track the footsteps of the settlers into Zimbabwe as way back as 1888, 1889, the colonization question. This is how far we must look at the issue of democracy, human rights, the so-called issues that then attracted sanctions.
When we reclaimed our land, the Western countries, our erstwhile colonizers, the British and their cousins, the Americans, were not happy because we had reclaimed our own land, which we had fought for. And many people, many young Zimbabweans sacrificed their lives for this land.
Those people that almost shunned the land back then in 2000 when it started, they are now retracing their footsteps to go and claim the land and say, this land belongs to us and we must make good use of it. And I can see a new revolution. Young farmers are going back to the land. And as we speak, I can assure you that there isn't enough land for everybody who needs land right now in Zimbabwe.
Most of the people have benefited from that because we got our land back. And by doing so, we have also managed to start our agriculture-based project.
They stole our land. We went through hard processes, including the liberation struggle.
Colonialism has been a topical issue in many discussions. Zimbabwe has been a victim of colonialism and a protectorate of British government. Is land reform program reversible?
I don't think so that it's reversible.
We cannot, how can we reverse something that is ours? We reverse the land to who and give it to who? We are Zimbabweans. This land is ours. We fought for it. People died for this land. Young people, my friends, my colleagues, my comrades died for this land. If we reverse that, why did we have to go to war for? Why did we even fight?
Certainly not. Certainly not. Look, okay, reversing to cater for whose interest? Because democracy is dictatorship of the majority. The majority here in Zimbabwe, we're not talking of the majority in Europe. The majority here wants their land. That's democracy. Close. The chapter is closed there.
Never in a lifetime, for as long as this generation survives, never in a lifetime. The land reform can never be restored. It can never be reversed. The land can never be restored back to the white commercial farmers. Never in a million years, because Zimbabweans now have got a clear conscience, they've got a clear understanding of the ownership of the land. They know that it belongs to them.
Secondly, we cannot give away who we are. We are linked to our land, and the land reform is irreversible.
It would be a dream to think that one day land would return back to the white farmers. That will never happen, because new protectors have come up now in the form of young farmers.
They've managed to at least buy some proxies in the form of civil society, in the form of opposition, to try and reverse the land reform. But one thing that I'm certain, it's a closed chapter. It's irreversible. They are allowed to be in Zimbabwe. According to the law, they can actually own a part of the land in Zimbabwe, but we need the fair game. We cannot go to America and actually push them to say we also want to be part of Americans, want the land, want this, go to China, go and it's unheard of.
Should Zimbabweans apologize for taking back their land and redistributing it?
Should we apologize that we are very sorry you colonized us? What is the statement of apology then? We are very sorry that you colonized us. You even went further and actually enslaved us. You know, we are very sorry. What is the statement then?
Who should I apologize to? What would Mbuyane Handa say? What would Sekuru Chaminuka say? What would Sekuru Kagovi say when I apologize to some foreigner who killed Mbuyane Handa? Some foreigner who beheaded Sekuru Chaminuka and others and took their heads away, and then I sit here and apologize? I don't think so. I'm not apologetic.
So Zimbabweans should never apologize, no matter how hard, no matter how painful the sanctions may be.
There's nothing to be sorry. There's nothing to apologize. Look, we are trying actually to make them fine. They are putting their issues here and there. But yes, for the land question, we have nothing to apologize.
Sanctions are defined as a threatened penalty for disobeying a law or rule. In the case of Zimbabwean sanctions imposed by the EU and US, do they mean the same?
Sanctions on their own are a form of silent warfare.
Sanctions are an excommunication from the world of economy.
Sanctions on Zimbabwe are a foreign policy tool of the United States of America, which is meant to exert direct control of sovereign nations without using force. It's a foreign policy extension tool by the United States.
We need to domesticate and break down the sanctions issue to the grassroots so that people understand what are sanctions. Some they say it's corruption, not sanctions. Are we denying that it's sanctions, not corruption? Some they say it's corruption. It's actually a seesaw debate. The issue is we don't support corruption, but guess what? Corruption is internal. Guess what? We don't need two wrongs to make a right. Why this corruption is a problem? That does not justify external forces in our country. We need to deal with the external problems separately.
Although claimed to be targeted at political leadership, government officials, and business community, on the ground they are non-discriminatory and have brought anguish to the innocent, ordinary Zimbabweans.
The Biden administration have got to wake up to this reality that sanctions on their own are a genocide. They must recognize the genocidal effect of sanctions. They should actually conduct a thorough study to see how sanctions can have an intended harm to vulnerable communities in targeted countries.
Them imposing sanction on us, it's not affecting the people they want to hate. Actually, it's affecting the whole Zimbabwe, the people we are being affected by these sanctions.
Sanctions have affected people who have absolutely nothing to do with governance.
I should just say that the students, they are being restrained from having study permits. It clearly shows that they are not only targeting political aspects, but the whole of Zimbabwe. Imagine I want to study abroad, but I can't just because I'm a Zimbabwean, which is not fair to the citizens. With especially the youth, there are several people with various dreams, and some of them they can be accomplished, or they feel like they want to do or achieve their goals by studying abroad. So depriving people of their for study payments, I don't think that will be wise. I don't think that's fair.
2015, by that very time, I was still ignorant of this subject. I thought highly that by that time that it was Mugabe and crew who were on sanctions. I was in Germany. I had my own very independent transactions and business. When I was back in Zimbabwe, my money was supposed to follow me. Now look at what happened. This is the day I realized that I was under sanctions. Right. I was one person who was so comfortable that sanctions were for Mugabe and crew. Yeah? Now, as the money was supposed to be transacted here to Zimbabwe, I took my bank details. Yeah? I could not access the money. I had a bank account, I had the money, and the person was ready to send. And what happened? I tell you, I got the money 6 months later. After using other means, I was told that every bank at that time, I tried to open another account. They said, no, sorry, your banks are on the offer list. The offer list. What does that mean? It means you cannot receive money from Europe. Your country is under sanctions. Look at that. Now it's your country. Now it's now me.
I hear sometimes people say they are targeted. They are not targeted at the president or at a certain minister or at anyone. They are targeted at every Zimbabwean of any political persuasion, of any belief or faith. We are all in the same boat. This country is ours.
I have colleagues in civil society who tried even we call crowd fund for targeted vulnerable communities in Matabeleland. After crowdfunding, well-wishers, they've put the money together, they know the cause, they want to help the people. Just recently, about 2 years ago, what happened? For them to transact the money to come to Zimbabwe, they were told, oh, sorry, you have the money, it's now ready, but this money cannot be wired to Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is under sanctions. This is the money going to actually, this is supposed to reach the vulnerable women, orphans, children, people living with disability. But what was the case? This country is under sanctions. Now you come back to me and say, who is targeted? Ordinary Zimbabweans.
Sanctions have wreaked havoc. They are a graveyard and spell disaster for the poor and weak, among others. Socially disadvantaged groups have not been spared.
Let me remind you of a statement that was said by one Chester Crocker, who was the U.S. Assistant Secretary for Africa, when he was presenting his case before the U.S. Senate Committee on Foreign Relations. He said to them, and I quote, "To separate the people of Zimbabwe from ZANU-PF, we will have to make their economy scream." Close quote. That was Mr. Chester Crocker advocating for the obliteration of the Zimbabwean economy so that the people of Zimbabwe will suffer until they revolt against their government. This was a declaration of war, in my opinion. A silent war that was meant to ground and to cripple a country without firing a gun.
Look, we are in a race, our hands are tied, and we are running the same race. Can you really, surely it's a fact. Our companies are choked, they were blocked, they are closed, banking systems, finance system, we can't access even free trade between companies. We are actually pinned down. Anyway, these are sanctions. They are made to inflict pain. And we are swimming in this pain.
We have been excommunicated we have been booted out from the economic systems of the world, of which we had been married to for a long time. Our independence at independence, we adopted the same system that our colonizers were using.
We must understand sanctions as a form of warfare. Zimbabwe has faced a war, a peaceful war, so I can say. Zimbabwe has faced a peaceful war for 20 years without firing a gun, but Zimbabweans have been drowning, Zimbabweans have died, Zimbabweans have suffered trauma, and as a nation we have regressed far, far worse than a country at war.
When a company closes, the government loses tax from that company. The workers are sent home. Automatically, by the moment we have our workers home, what does that mean? Families, automatically they suffer. We talk of the national fiscus. Talk again about the list of those people. Look, when a father is saying that we are not going to allow your father to trade, but don't worry, we are not punishing you, we are punishing the father. And the father is the breadwinner. Look at the bureaus of the custodians, or the lead, our leaders in this country. Well, don't worry, it's only that your president cannot trade. He cannot even write a letter and ask for any loan from IMF. Don't worry, you are not targeted. The very money is what we need right now to deal with our industry. And these people are actually bad.
The government is only managing to prioritize the little resources that they get to critical sectors of the economy, but they cannot do very much because the fiscal space is limited. So definitely sanctions have placed a burden on the health delivery and the sanitation systems of our country.
All our infrastructures suffered because of sanctions. And when the infrastructure suffers, let's say for instance, hospitals, if we don't have hospitals, people die. We lost our own traditional way of doing things, and we had adopted this new system that we found that the colonizers had introduced to us. So we can't go back to midzi yedu yataimbochka, and we were dependent on hospitals, and the hospitals were not functioning, and people died. A lot of people died. Sanctions are evil, they are diabolic.
It is not fair, and the Americans should lift up the sanctions that they've imposed on us, because it is affecting the Zimbabweans, especially the youth. We have got a long path to take, and we've got so many dreams, goals that we want to achieve. But due to the sanctions, it is the sanctions that are making it hard for us to achieve those kind of things.
At the moment, sanitary wear, for example, other girls like in the rural areas, I find it really difficult to buy those sanitary wares. Therefore, using clothes or other things that they can use, and sometimes might not even go to school, and that might also disturb them, even emotionally, and and all that.
I think sanctions, they are really affecting the girl child, especially on the sanitary way, especially in the rural areas. The girls, they cannot go to school, especially during their monthly periods, because their parents, they cannot afford to buy them sanitary way. And also even the women, they cannot afford to buy their own sanitary way because of economic hardship due to sanctions.
So Zimbabwe at this stage should realize and recognize that the warfare that we are facing is actually mutating. At first it was an armed struggle, and then we won independence. But the warfare mutated to become a silent war, a silent genocide, as can be experienced by the number of people who have lost their lives due to the crippling effects of sanctions. People have failed to access medication. Our hospital system, our health sector has crumbled because the government cannot capacitate them. Most people have actually fallen victim to this scourge. Like for example, in this country, it's hard to imagine that we have got only a single dialysis machine only at Parenyato. Only a single chemotherapy center at Arinyatwa, saving a population of about 15 million people. You can imagine how many people have fallen behind on their ARV, on their ART treatment, because the government cannot procure enough basic medicines for its population.
With these sanctions being continuously sustained and Zimbabweans keeping on and on suffering, what should be done?
Well, I think we just need to speak with one voice. We need to speak with one voice. We need as sectors to speak to each other. Like I said, Zimbabwe needs what is called a sanction-based measures. It can only work when we have a coherence and cohesion between all sectors. What is also lacking at the moment is an understanding from the grassroots level on what are sanctions. How do they affect me? How do they affect you? Because these sanctions are fed they are actually fed through lies, through propaganda, through anything that can actually paint the nation black. You can't justify the existence of sanctions without that cheap propaganda. So we need every Zimbabwean to understand what are sanctions. Are you able to identify sanctions when you reach probably even the health facilities to say this can be the result of sanction? Are you able to see sanctions in the face of a closed industry? Are you able to identify sanctions? So when we reach such a point, it means we will be actually singing from the same hymn book when we say sanctions must be removed unconditionally. We are able actually to raise the bar, but when we are divided and others are still doing cashivism, they are actually on an overdrive to peddle lies against the country. It means we haven't managed to sing from the same hymn book as a people. We need cohesion of all sectors. We need actually to have some coherence as we fight this issue.
Actually, what should happen, what Zimbabweans should be asking for, what Zimbabwe should be fighting for right now is for that recognition and compensation for the land that was stolen from them.
Let the people understand what is good for them. Let us rally behind, or let us rally from the same vision, national vision. Do we have a national vision? Do we have a national identity? Look at the generation that went that fought for our country, the political independence, that won the political independence. They had some consensus. They had a same running point. Do we have such as a generation? Or we need even intergenerational knowledge transfer for us to appreciate what led to these people to win the political independence. Now we are here to take over from the political independence to the economic independence. We are faced with our own warfare. Political independence was fought using guns. Economic independence, they are fighting using economic warfare in the form of sanctions. So it's a revolution. Are we able ourselves as a country? Are we able to define this? Are we able to rally our people from the same, probably a rallying point in terms of this economic warfare?
In solidarity with their sister nation, SADC and all other countries are saying Zimbabwe deserves better. Zimbabwe will be somewhere if these sanctions are lifted.
If it was not for the resilience of proud Zimbabweans, this country would have perished. No country can survive the several years that we went through. If SADC had not stood by us, maybe today Zimbabwe would have half the population that it has today. We thank the African continent for standing with us.
For the fault of the harvest, look to the spring. For the suffering Zimbabweans are going through, they will definitely have to look to Europe and ask if it is wrong to have claimed their land back from them. If not, then these sanctions must go.
It is time that people recognize that we are not at peace. We are fighting a generational struggle. It is a generational struggle that demands that everybody rises up and open up our minds and renew our conscience and realize that we have to fight this war collectively and demand an end to the sanctions that are currently prevailing.
What I have to say is that they just have to remove these sanctions because they have caused a lot of pain because people are really suffering.
In fact, what the people of Zimbabwe should demand is an audit as to the quantum of losses financially, economically, and human lives as a result of sanctions, and then approach the International Criminal Court of Justice to institute criminal proceedings against those very countries and entities that impose the illegal sanctions on the people of Zimbabwe.
The Biden administration, the Biden, who is the CEO of the American corporation, what I would like to say to them is that I'm not begging them to remove their sanctions. They should find it deep down in their hearts to do the right thing. I'm not going to beg America to remove sanctions. They should find it in their heart if they are genuine and look inside themselves and see that what they have done to this nation, if we deserve that for wanting to be independent and free.
To the Biden administration, my word is remove the economic sanctions on the people of Zimbabwe. These economic sanctions are never targeted because the ability of our government to provide for its people is exactly what makes life bearable for its people. If you cripple a government, if you sanction a head of state, you sanction the chief diplomat, the one who is supposed to intervene and intercede for his people, and you remove the trust and faith of investors to invest in a country. People have lost jobs, people have lost livelihoods, and it is the people that are suffering from economic sanctions. It is not the government or the leaders of political parties.